Happy Tuesday. Here's a quote that's stuck with me for a while now since I read it. And here it is. Anger is the punishment we give ourselves for someone else's mistake. Hello, welcome to another Rare Leader Conversation with myself, Tony Jalen, and the wonderful, right there,
Danielle Jalen.
And today we're going to talk about anger. And ways to go ahead and change your perspective around it, and ways also how to better handle anger. I had an interesting story this weekend, and some of you guys may or may not know who watched this, and whether you're watching live on YouTube or on Twitter or on the Rare Leader Facebook group. I am also a volleyball official. And if you have kids that play sports, or you may be a coach, you realize that fans can get a little bit excited about sports. And as we know, refs, officials aren't perfect. And judgment calls may have a disagreement on them as well. And that's what happened this weekend. I had an opportunity to be a bystander at a volleyball match. It was a lot of tension. It was Championship Sunday. And there was a judgment call that some coaches didn't agree with and some fans didn't agree with. And one fan in particular got very excited. Actually, so excited that they stood up and was yelling and whatnot. And as you can imagine, if a fan's yelling at a youth sports game, it can make other fans uncomfortable. So at this moment, because other fans were getting uncomfortable, I approached this fan as a bystander and said, hello, sir, could you please take a seat? He said, who the heck are you? I go, I'm an official here. And then and then he starts yelling more. I go, sir, could you please go ahead and bring down a few notches? If not, you may get removed from the premises. He's like, I'm not bleeping moving. Let me see you effing try. Basically threatened me. And at that moment, I looked at him because I was in complete shock of what just transpired. And old school Tony would have for sure probably said some kind of comment. But then I remember this quote: anger is the punishment we give ourselves for someone else's mistake. And at that moment, I decided to walk away, and I went to the tournament director and told them about the situation, and they agreed that this person needs to be removed. And at the end of the day, it was 5 security guards that landed up removing this person from a youth volleyball game. Why do I tell you that story? Anger is punishment to you for someone else's mistake, whether we agree or not on it. And I think in this situation, it was an unfortunate series of events. The last thing you want to see is a fan getting kicked out or removed from the premises, especially if they're watching their granddaughter of all things. And I stopped and reflected on this situation. Okay, what could I have done better in this situation? Many parents came up to me afterwards and said, Tony, you handled that professionally, incredibly professionally, very cool, calm, and collect. And we just want to say thank you for doing that, because it was uncalled for what that person was doing to me. He was yelling at a 16-year-old kid, right? That was refereeing at the time. But I still thought there's something I can learn in this situation. There's something I can do to get better in this situation. So if this occasion was ever to happen again, how can I approach the situation even better? So there were some lessons that I took out of myself. I could have figured out how to redirect his attention. I could have just sat down next to him. There's things I could have done better. Why do we bring this up? I think there's numerous times in our lives where anger gets the best of us. And I don't know about you, Danielle, but I know there's times in which I've gotten angry and the end result was never the best result. How about you?
No, I was actually when you said you want to talk about this, I'm like, I don't really remember the last time that I've been super upset, and at what point that it changed from being super upset about everything. Um, it's just interesting that I think a lot of times the anger comes from because we're disappointed in ourselves because we know that we can be better and we're trying to point fault at other people for the situations that we're in. And I think at some point there comes the realization like this was my fault. Like, what am I getting upset about? Like, know the right thing to do in that situation. However, I made a different choice, and getting upset at others around me um, isn't going to solve the problem.
Right.
And obviously, like this spectator was maybe just a grumpy old man. I don't know what if he's really that upset about a call. I'm like, and I think being a parent watching sports like that and understanding like I think it's easy for a parent to get upset at an adult official, but to me it blows my mind that they're so upset at these younger kids that are just trying to help the sport out by becoming an official because we're lacking them. And so it just amazes me that, I mean, this granddaughter that was playing was probably 2 years younger than the official. And he's that upset. Like, well, what if that was his granddaughter up there making the call? How would he be reacting? So
Right.
it's interesting the different perspectives that I don't know where like I said, at what point they changed.
Well, even for me, I was not happy with him. I know that, like, because he was yelling and he was standing and he would not let it go. And the voice got more. I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, I felt my own anger getting up. But I just keep on thinking about this phrase that if you ever listen to any of our calls in the past, you've heard me say it: be quick to listen and slow to speak and slow to respond. And, I ask myself, like, like, we're all part of every problem. We're all part of it. Whether we want to say it or not, we're all responsible. And it was interesting, like later in that, about an hour later, I'm standing in the thoroughfare of the walkway of the courts, volleyball courts, and I'm just smiling just because, whatever, I'm just smiling. I mean, I'm over that situation. A woman's walking by me and she's looking at me and I smile. Just being cordial. And she said, "Don't you smile at me." I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm like, what is going on here? And I just listen. I look at her. I'm like, she goes, "You got my husband kicked out." And I'm like, oh, this is the wife of the husband. But she wasn't sitting next to him the whole time in the match, by the way. Just want to point that out there.
Well, obviously.
Right. And, okay, guys, I'm going to be honest with you. Here's the thought that came to my mind at this moment. Because I'm listening to her. I wanted to say to her, okay, I'm saying this. This is being recorded. This is me live. Do you want to join them? That's what I was really thinking in that moment. Because it was like, just came at me. But again, I go, I sat there and I didn't respond to anything she said. I just listened and then she walked away. You could tell there was more things she wanted to say, but she probably didn't hear. She wasn't next to him when he said the threatening comments. So her perspective was he was challenging one call, and that was it. So I'm like, perspective drives our actions, and that's when it comes to anger. I remember when I was younger, I would get upset a lot more. And now people say, "Tony, you have quite the long fuse." Depends if I ate and had slept that night. But here, I want to share some things when it comes to anger management that I've learned. And the first thing when it comes to anger management for myself and my experiences, think before you speak. Be quick to listen and then think before you speak. And this is not a innate response. This is a learned behavior. For you, Danielle, that's one tip that I've learned. What are some other anger management tips? Because you said it's been a while since you've been like really upset. What are some other things you've learned to go ahead and, I wouldn't say not get angry, but better temper your anger?
I think probably one of the biggest things that we talked about last week is what if you're at where you should be? And how does that make you feel? And I think a lot of that now is just stopping and thinking about the situation, like, what got to this point. Um, is being upset really going to fix it now? I mean, I understand that there's are points when you do need to let the emotion out or it will explode out of you. And so I don't think holding it in and like brushing it under the rug or anything like that is good. But I think being able to talk about it and just get it off your chest. Um, and it may be a little explosion at some point, and understanding like, maybe prefacing like, I'm not mad at you, I just need to get this off my chest, like being able to just reflect on it and filter it through a little bit easier to make it come out a little more kind. At the same time, like, there are times that it's just going to come out because you've let it sit for too long.
Right. And I think that's a good point. There's two types of anger. There's anger that we have with other people, and there's anger with ourselves, right? And I think that's the other one of the tips that I've learned in unison with you is like take a moment to breathe, to calm down, and then express your concerns. I still remember where we're in at home. I mean, arguments happen, disagreements happen. We're human beings, for goodness sakes. I mean, first you go in and ripple dog the wrong way, the dog's gonna go and bare its teeth. And I remember there were times where I learned this from my mom and dad, where they would, have their disagreements, and my dad would simply just walk out of the room. Now, I'm sure there's some time beforehand, he's like, listen, I got to walk away from here before it gets too heated. But he would literally like walk out of the room or leaving out. My mom would sometimes go after him. No, we're going to finish this. And I'm sometimes the same way. Like, no, we're going to finish this conversation. There's two schools of thoughts on that. I think, the better anger management, have better anger management is,
Eat.
calm down, eat, right? Like take a timeout. I know Danielle and I will have this thing where, when we would have different agreements, we go like this, timeout. Like we literally do the timeout sign. It's okay, we got a timeout right now. We got a timeout because this like this is not gonna be pretty if we keep on both going at this right now. So it's okay to take a timeout, to step away. Number two, don't hold a grudge. I would like to one day talk to this grandpa and just talk to him because I know he came to support his grandchild. He's probably a good human being. And the emotion got the best of him. I would probably gather to say that if he was to see me today, he'd probably come with me. We'd go ahead and, iron things out. So don't hold a grudge. At the end of the day, I don't think people 9 out of 10 times purposely do things to anger us. They may know that it may anger you, but they don't purposely do it with their own intent because they're probably like, there's a phrase that says hurting people hurt people. What about get some exercise, I know sometimes that's something that we've both done is to cool down, is get some exercise. Have you still believe in that thought process or what?
Well, given depending on the timing of it, like, it's not sometimes in the middle of a conversation that you're just gonna be like, okay, I'm angry, I gotta go work out. So I think if you've had a long day at work and it's almost lunch or there's things been going on, you can get out and get a walk in. I think that is a great idea.
I think a walk is a great idea because I'm gonna let you all know once I wasn't in a good mood years ago, and if anyone ever knows what those heavy balls are, that bounce. I was holding a grudge on something. It was a 4:30, 4:45 in the morning workout, and it was 10 pounds, and I do these ball slams as part of my workout. I grabbed the wrong ball that day. I grabbed the bouncy heavy ball. And I slammed that ball hard because I had these emotions going through me. I slammed it so hard, I nearly knocked myself out. So rather than not do weights, I would say venture to go and take the Neil's advice, go for a walk, talk it out loud to yourself, versus going ahead doing weights or anything with physical. You may hurt something in the meantime. I still remember that ball bounced back. I really did the like shuffle backwards, like whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm lucky I did not break my nose. I did get a bloody nose, did not break my nose. Another thing I think is identify possible solutions. Right? For me, it's like instead of focusing on what made you mad, working on resolving the issue at hand. In other words, for example, does a messy room make you upset? All right, well, you know what? Why not just close the door to that room? Or how about this, right? Is your partner late for dinner every night? How about schedule meals later at night, or agree to eat on your own a few times? Understand like something. Like, I think sometimes we just got to realize some things are truly out of our control, and I don't know about you, Danielle, but I think it's what's helped me out is try to be realistic about what you can and cannot change. I mean, do you ever think about that? Like, what can I control and what I can't control?
Well, sometimes, yeah. I think that a
What's
lot of it, like the realization, like, what led to this point and understanding, there were decisions made or whatever,
Mhm.
why you're upset. So,
Right. Well, I think another thing you could do is use humor to release tension. Like I did that this weekend too. Like it was a tense game, like early in the morning that I got the ref. And there was a parent that I swear he was the best referee without a whistle in the whole doggone building. And I didn't even have a moment to breathe into my whistle at times. He goes, Nat, Nat, Nat. So finally, I mean, I was going to make the call anyways, but I think he thought he was influencing the call. So I literally one time just looked over him. I go, I got it. I got it. Thank you, though. I appreciate having another set of eyes. And he laughed, and other people laughed. And then, like in between sets, I went to him. I go, man, you know what? I think you need to get a whistle. He's like, why? I go, you do a good job repping. I go, I gotta tell you, there was 3 net calls that your team did that you didn't say anything about. And he just laughed. He goes, yeah, all right. I just get into the game a little bit. I go, that's why I wear earplugs. It's completely okay. So we had a good laugh about it in the morning. I think the final comment when it comes to actually 2 of them is one, you got to breathe, right? Put relaxation skills to work. What I do, I take a deep breath through my nose and hold it for 4 seconds. Or I say a phrase for me is cool, calm, and collect. Cool, calm, and collect. Cool, calm, and collect. And I think the other thing is to make sure you use I statements versus you statements. What do you think about that, Neil? When you're sharing what you're feeling.
well, I think you're completely wrong, but that's fine.
Say, I feel this way versus you, because that doesn't help it. Believe me, it doesn't help it. Any other final thoughts when it comes to anger management and how to handle anger better?
I think just take a look inside. If you feel yourself getting angry about something, what are you really becoming angry about? Like, is it something that you could have done to change the situation? Is it something that you can control situation from happening again? How can you fix it? And just taking a look at yourself versus trying to find somebody else to blame on everything.
Yeah, that's good tips. And folks, we're not psychiatrists, we're not psychologists. This is just our own experience in how to handle anger management. And if you feel that there's a situation where your anger has actually been a consistent thing, and it's been a hard for you to manage and work through, there's nothing hurts to go and seek professional help. There's a lot of people out there that can help you, spend a lot of time with you, more than the little time we're spending with you this morning. Other than that, hope that helps out. And remember, anger is punishment to you for someone else's mistake. Until next week, be a real leader, resourceful, adaptive, resilient, and willing to engage with others. Rise up, onward and upwards.